The symbolism of thoughts, flags, smoke, and prayers. Spirit input. This hourglass-shaped picture represents our mind. We have used it before in other videos, but then we looked at spiritual input, which goes from our higher spirit and the composer of dreams, visions and hallucinations, to the function of perception, or perceive in the diagram. And on the diagram, you can see this spirit input represented as a blue wavy line. Thoughts, perceptions. But on this same diagram you can also see a red box labelled thoughts, perceptions, that are the output of the subconscious perceive process. And these thoughts, perceptions are used in learning, in triggering emotions, and by the direction system that decides what we do next. Follow the lines out of the red box. Thoughts or perceptions are put together from the outputs of all sorts of other functions, sensations from our five senses and our nervous systems, emotions and spirit input. And as a consequence, our personality-directed will, takes action, and in a great big feedback loop, the effects of our action are monitored by those same subconscious processes, and used by our conscious selves to again direct what we do next. So our minds are designed like a perfect control system. The action of the will by our conscious selves is partly directed by the functions of our conscious self: reason, memory recall, learning, objective setting and prioritization, but almost entirely driven by what we perceive. Spirit output. What you will also see, however, is that there is a red line soaring up to our higher spirit. In other words, our higher spirit monitors everything we do. The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on. Nor all thy piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it. In other words, the higher spirit always gets to know exactly what happened. And it is said this is used in judgment when we die. So let us look at spirit output and all the symbolic ways these thoughts, perceptions may be represented. Smoke and chimneys. Smoke may symbolically rise as incense, sweet or perfumed thoughts. Thomas Lovell Beddoes. Thoughts. Sweet are the thoughts that haunt the poet's brain, like rainbow-fringed clouds through which some star peeps in bright glory on a shepherd swain. They sweep along and trance him, sweeter far than incense trailing up an outstretched chain. From rocking censer, sweeter too they are than the thin mist which rises in the gale from out the slender cowslip's bee-scarred breast. Their delicate pinions buoy up a tail like brittle wings, which curtain in the vest of cobweb-limbed ephemera that sail in gauzy mantle of dun twilight dressed, borne on the wing's soft sighings when the spring listens all evening to its whispering. Occasionally, however, it pays to keep our thoughts to ourselves. Thomas Carlyle on Hero's Hero Worship and the Heroic. The suffering man ought to consume his own smoke. There is no good in emitting smoke till you have made it into fire. But it is also possible to have smoking chimneys, linking in with the symbolism of the house or castle. And the Bhagavad Gita makes it very clear that this is the path of return, reincarnation. The Bhagavad Gita, translated by W.J. Johnson. The one who has attained the moon's light by smoke, by night, in the dark lunar fortnight, and during the 6 months of the sun's southern path, returns. For the universe, these light and dark paths are considered eternal. Via one Amban goes not to return, via the other he returns again. Balloons and bubbles. Hot air balloons are frequently used symbolically. Thomas Tranströmer, To Friends Behind a Border, translated by Robert Bly. I wrote sparsely to you, but everything I couldn't say swelled up like some old-fashioned hot air balloon and disappeared finally in the night sky. Now the censor has my letter. He turns on his light. My words, alarmed, fly up like monkeys in a cage, rattle the bars, hold still, and show their teeth. Read between the lines. We'll meet 200 years from now, when the microphones in the hotel walls are useless and can finally fall asleep and be trilobites. Some random thoughts or periods of wishful thinking rise like bubbles until they become castles in the air.
Pretty bubbles in the air.
Penance, flags, and prayers. But prayers have a definite structure and are often symbolically shown as flags, which is why there are such things as prayer flags. Pennants represent the same thing. And there was once a constellation called Tarabellum and Vexillum, going back to the 12th century and created by Michel Scott, which had a drill looking like the Arance posture and flag-like standard. Michael Scott, Latin Michael Scotus, 1175 to 1232, was a mathematician and scholar who was the greatest public intellectual of his day. He served as science advisor and court astrologer to the Emperor Frederick II. Scrolls. A scroll is often carried by ancient priestly and godlike figures. And where the scroll is connected to the mysteries, it can be an indication that the person has passed all the tests and become an adept. Their record, as judged from their perception record, the truth, is clean. Horns. Horn symbolism is also related to spirit input and spirit output, and we have a video on horns which explores their symbolism in some detail. Clouds, dew, and mist. And finally, If we release energy, it will symbolically rise, and we will see water vapour, spirit, gradually rising, letting off steam. Thus symbolically, spirit output is also seen as clouds, rising dew, ripples and mist. And we have a video exploring this symbolism called Clouds.